A couple of years ago, I was reading a newspaper article about a chain of stores that had made a particularly bad decision. And the person who was writing the article was talking about how in America, people probably would have arranged for a protest or written letters to the owner of the company or tried to do something in response to this bad decision that they had made. But then the writer of the article said that because this situation had happened in Canada, that what was much more likely would be that people would just stop going. They wouldn't complain, but they wouldn't give this place their business anymore. And when I read that, I thought that's so true. It's very Canadian for us when we have conflicts, not wanting to be combative, to often just walk away and not engage in conflict resolution or in reconciliation or anything like that. We just sometimes stop participating. And so I wanted to give a brief sermon, if you want to call it that, of two passages from Matthew that talk about how, though this is very Canadian, it's not very Christian to do this. So let me read you two short passages. The first one comes from Matthew 5. And this is Jesus teaching in what's called the Sermon on the Mount. He says, "Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to your brother. Then come and offer your gift." Now, just remember that in that passage, it's you remember that your brother has something against you, or someone else has wronged you in some way. Or, sorry, I said that wrong. You have wronged someone else. Then you need to go and be reconciled. So you have wronged someone else comes from Matthew 5. And then the second one that we have is from Matthew chapter 18. This is another teaching of Jesus. It says, "If your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over." So in Matthew 5, we have a situation where if you have done wrong to someone, and then in Matthew 18, we have a situation where someone has done wrong to you. And in both of these passages, we see that Jesus teaching that if there's a situation where there's been wrong done, there's been sin one against another, that you need to go and deal with it. In the first passage, it's if you've done something wrong and you realize it, stop worshiping at the altar. God wants you to go and resolve this issue with the other person before you come back to worship. That's a pretty high view of our relationships with each other. And in the second passage, it's common for us where sometimes if people wrong us, we don't really want to make a big deal out of it. But Jesus encourages us to bring that up with people, to share it, and to work through it. I, personally speaking, have mixed experiences with these things. I'm sometimes not good at confronting people or at humbling myself enough to go and say that I've done something wrong. But I recognize that there's an important part of what Jesus teaches, which says that the way that we relate to other people and when we have things between us that create conflict, that he teaches that it's important for us to resolve those, to not leave them undone, but to finish them. And I think we recognize the truth in this. If you've ever had an experience where you've had a fight with someone or you've been at odds with someone, and then you've had the opportunity to talk about it honestly, and to, even if there was some tension involved, to get to a point where you kind of worked it out, you know how much relief that brings. Just from not feeling that sense of walking on eggshells around that person or being uncertain about how they feel. And it does give us a particular kind of release that I think we miss out on when we just walk away from conflict. And so from these passages, I think we get that our Canadian response to kind of just walk away and not engage in conflict is actually not a Christian response. And it's an encouragement to us to, even though this is really difficult, to try and work on going to one another and talking about conflicts when we have them and doing our best to work them out with one another.